ask if I leave home. Well, I tell she a real close. Girl, I almost there. All inclusive fete. Yeah, tonight go her real vibes. This crowd here go be real nice. Can't find me ticket. I done by the door. Realize I had to pay more. I have to get in because this fete not missing me. It's not missing me. I want to go big people party, make the music take over me. I want to jump up all day, all day. I want to wind up all day, all day. I want big people party, and liquor up inside me. I want to jump up all day. Come on, can't stop me.
Where we go,
Can't stop me. Can't stop me. Back up the thing. Going big people fete. Make girl call and ask if I leave home.
Bread and cracker
We are real close.
Just
Girl, I almost
blaze.
there. All inclusive fete. Yeah, tonight go her real vibes. This crowd here go be real nice. Can't find me ticket. I done by the door. Realize I had to pay more. I have to get in because this fete not missing me. It's not missing me. I want to go big people party, make the music take over me. I want to jump up all day, all day. I want to wind up all day, all day. I want big people party, and liquor up inside me. I want to jump up all day, all day. I want to wind up all day. Head back down a real high and a real tight. Can't stop me, oh, can't stop me, oh. Man, a real high and a real vibe. Can't stop me, oh, can't stop me, oh. Start the wine, girl, come and hold me. Like pressure on chain, we go break with. Need company, girl, I come in. Keep that bumper rolling. Bring thing, I say, girl, give me harder. Slow it right down now, give me faster. Be whining, me chipping, make room. Give me a little excuse. I was by the door. Yes, I have to pay more. But now I get in. I cause in a scene. I had to get in. I want to go big people party, make the music take over me. I want to jump up all day, all day. I want to wind up all day, all day. I want big people party, and liquor up inside me. I want to jump up all day, all day. I want to wind up all day. Head back down a real high and a real tight. Can't stop me, oh, can't stop me, oh. Man, a real high and a real vibe. Can't stop me, oh, can't stop me, oh. Going big people fete. Make girl call and ask if I leave home. Well, I tell she a real close. Girl, I almost there. All inclusive fete. Yeah, tonight go her real vibes. This crowd here go be real nice. Can't find me ticket. I done by the door. Realize I had to pay more. I have to get in because this fete not missing me. It's not missing me. I want to go big people party, make the music take over me. I want to jump up all day, all day. I want to wind up all day, all day. I want big people party, and liquor up inside me. I want to jump up all day, all day. I want to wind up all day. Head back down a real high and a real tight. Can't stop me, oh, can't stop me, oh. Man, a real high and a real vibe. Can't stop me, oh, can't stop me, oh.
Yes, indeed, of course, a pleasant good night to all and sundry. It is, of course, the penultimate before the week finishes. You know, it's Friday, and Friday will be, of course, a bye day. I'm talking about tomorrow. But, of course, in the meantime, of course, welcome to the corridor transformation. Of course, we would have had a bit of tardiness tonight, but that is due to circumstances beyond my control. Let us establish that as a factor, but that being as it may, of course, I see that people have been calling already. My apology, as I said, because circumstances beyond my control. Yes, I am unable. I was unable, of course, to start on time as we normally would. But of course, just about 25 minutes past the hour of 8 o'clock. So you have not missed anything at all because we have just started. But that being as it may, let us get in, of course, to the whole question of the emerging, should I say, multiple scenarios relating, of course, to that turned over. Now we know it's a badge that was being towed from, of course, Panama, they say, but somehow got into Trinidad and Tobago's water, Tobago in particular, and now, of course, it is reading from the, should I say, the repercussions of an oil spill. And, of course, what we don't have is a firm position on what has really transpired. The names, we have some names emerging. Of course, we will examine that a little more on Saturday. We have, of course, the purpose. Well, the purpose, they say, was to reach Guyana. Of course, Guyana is saying that nothing has reached them, both in terms of a badge or in terms of the tug that was supposed to be, of course, should I say, pulling that particular badge from Panama. Where exactly in Panama that oil that was, of course, loaded onto that badge came from, we are yet to know. Of course, we know too that Dr. Rowley, and clearly, of course, while I have no brief for Farley, but I would have assumed that he would have been he would have gotten information from a trusted source, and that is that the badge, now we know it's a badge and not a boat per se, and therefore that could not have, of course, but its own volition or its own power, so to speak, because it has no engine, clearly, or propellers, or those equipment that would, or devices that would, of course, cause a boat to propel forward or backward, as the case may be. But that being as it may, what is important is that we were told that it was aggregate. It was, of course, also lumber on that boat and on that badge, now that we know it's a badge. But I had to also intimate on the ground report this morning, well, if that is so, maybe it was there for millions of years, because, of course, suddenly it has turned to crude oil. And therefore, of course, as you know, crude oil and the gases, of course, is as a result of millions of years, where, of course, trees or plants and animals were crushed, were, of course, squeezed, were compressed in such a way that during decomposition or after decomposition, the various ingredients that came out of that mixture settled in certain layers of the earth, and as a consequence, centuries later, a man was able, of course, to discover that and, of course, twin it or apply it to the production and the use of vehicles and boats and aeroplanes, etc., etc. So I thought it was important to give a brief, of course, historical and should I say geological, and as well as, of course, epoch of the establishment, and why, of course, we find oil and gas, of course, in the earth, or below the earth, if you want to call it that, or within the earth, if you want to call it that. But the fact of the matter is that it took millions of years. Well, that boat took, of course, just days in order, of course, to convert its cargo that they told us was, of course, lumber as well as aggregators or gravel, and it suddenly turned to oil, and what a mess it has created. And therefore, of course, international attention has been paid, and suddenly, of course, Dr. Rowley had to find himself in Tobago and making, of course, the most lame duckets of excuses that one could find from any individual who claim to be, of course, some kind of intellectual, because after all, he has a doctorate, but of course it appears that he's a total rockhead. That being as it may, so the question of who, or that disaster that has happened off the eastern side of Tobago and along the Atlantic Ocean. And as I said, a lot of questions to be asked, and a lot of it have not been or has not been, of course, answered, and we will continue to probe. But it is economic ruin for Tobago once again. And very interestingly, Farley said that he got a WhatsApp message stating that the owners of the particular, should I say, contraptment, yes, because it has to be that the barge as well as the tug, he got that it belongs to someone who is negotiating with the government to purchase the Petrotrin oil refinery. Very interesting development. It suggests immediately that the government is aware, and do not be surprised that they will, of course, declare ignorance. And ignorance here doesn't mean irascible as we would interpret it in Trinidad and Tobago parlance or language. Ignorance here means lack of knowledge, don't know. But then we have heard it before. Rowley told us after he gave us all kinds of indication, and by way of deductive and, of course, inductive reasoning as well. We have already examined what is deductive reasoning. Of course, you have several issues on the table, and you do an elimination process, and then you end up, of course, most likely with the correct answer. Deductive reasoning. Inductive reasoning, of course, is that you have nothing physical, no evidence to go on physically. You could see palpable and tactile, but on the basis of what is before you, you can also make a conclusion or surmise. Of course, in the legal context and in the courts, it is called, of course, circumstantial evidence. Well, both the circumstantial and physical points to a very sinister, a very what I consider to be greedy avarice. And what is important, as Mikey indicated this morning on the ground report, is how long this was taking place undetected by this administration. And it has a further connotation, and that is deployed in the early days, greedy and illegal conduct coming through the waters of Trinidad and Tobago, that those Dayman vessels were not deployed in the early days by the Rowley administration. Obviously, that's an obvious question. Why weren't those terms of maintenance before late last year, when clearly from our deductive analysis, we all know brief, but since the government is clandestine, since they are secretive, since they are cryptic, since they are attempting to obfuscate and to deflect, as we have seen that is stereotypical of this administration, we have to draw our own deductive and inductive reasoning. And I want to say, it is clear that there is more in the mortar than the pestle. There is a need for Dr. Rowley and I know the term come clean again. That is for, of course, sophisticated and what I consider to be politicians that are complacent. We need, of course, to hit the jugular one time. And Dr. Rowley and the government must question, direct question, how long this kind of behavior was taking place, and why it is the Dayman vessels, 12 of them, that could have, of course, serviced the maritime border needs of Trinidad and Tobago and be deployed by the Coast Guard in particular to man or to police our assets, and of course our maritime borders. There is a need for Rowley to answer that, because he believes that he could go to a press conference 5 days later after the spill and then say that they have put out a not so insignificant amount of money to repair those Daman vessels that were there since 2015, since he came into office, and were laid and were left in fallow at Sobel's Bay. He has to answer. And boy, oh boy, what has happened? He simply flew off to some amorphous holiday. Amorphous holiday. I don't know what he has done to deserve a holiday. But in the fullness of time, and whether he is present or not, as some caller, one of the callers said, he probably is going there to then deflect or divert to some country with whom Trinidad and Tobago does not have an extradition arrangement, and is a pariah, clearly, country. And as I have speculated before, that the fact that he has put Dillon, the former national security failure, under Rowley to be ambassador to Venezuela, suddenly and out of the blues, as like some kind of epiphany, some kind of amorphous logic, and not telling us what is the reason why, after so many years, Dillon went there. Dillon was taken there. Dillon was sent there. Is it that Rowley is setting up his asylum base? Let's go straight to the line. A pleasant good night.
Pleasant good night, Mr. Lennox.
Good night to you. Good night to you. Pleasant good night. Good night to you. Good night.
Now you see why. Now you see why. Good night, good night. Now you see why this leader that we have here weaponize every independent institution against his opponents and against the people of Trinidad, against the citizens and his opponents. Now you see why. And more is coming out as we go along. We will get to the bottom of it. Right now, the Prime Minister should just call a meeting, dissolve Parliament, and call the election. He lost his mandate of being the Prime Minister. He is an expired Prime Minister. He needs to call an election quickly. Let me get him the hell out of there. You have a blessed night, Mr. Lennox.
Yes, indeed. And I couldn't agree with you more. And I'm sure the majority, the vast majority of Trinbagonians, except, of course, for those who are prepared to hold on to a dribble. But the elasticity of a dribble usually expires as well, faster than you think. So they will hold on to that dribble, hoping that that could save them. But no, there is no saving here. There is no saving grace. There is no saving law. The fact of the matter is that he must call an election now. As you rightly said, he has lost his mandate. He has breached, of course, the social contract that he questionably had with the population, even in the 2015 elections and the 2020 elections subsequently. He has of course, been very undemocratic and undermining, of course, prepared to undermine the electoral process itself, with, of course, conspirators such as the EBC. We saw that, of course, in the Tobago elections. We saw that in the 2020 elections. We saw it, of course, in the 2015 elections. In the 2015 elections, of course, he called the EBC chairman to extend the time for voting without authority, according to the courts, by 1 hour. We are yet to know what is the benefit of the PNM in that regard. The man is simply despicable. He is an unfair person. He does not, of course, want to to obey the rules. He doesn't play by the rules. He wants a total control and, of course, unfair advantage. We saw the same thing in 2020 when, of course, he did not, and utilizing COVID as the major excuse. But we have the information that the Commonwealth independently elections conducted by nations across the globe, particularly those of the former empire of the United Kingdom. And they said in uncertain terms, they wrote it to Moses, telling Moses, listen, we are ready and prepared to come for the elections. Yes, it is a bit late, so what we would recommend and suggest is that we have 1 day quarantine. But Rowley was in some pub and he was gloating, and he was, of course, signaling that there 14 days that they would have to stay in quarantine, of course, as part of the COVID protocol, will make them, of course, go past the elections. That is what he was saying. He Rowley quarantine. While, of course, there is evidence that they did it in other countries. I'm talking about the Commonwealth Secretariat said that they would have done it in other countries. And when Moses, the then Minister of Foreign Affairs, got that WhatsApp message, we have the WhatsApp message as well from the British High Commission here, who was first sentenced, and then he forwarded, of course, to Dennis Moses. And we do not know yet if Dennis Moses responded at all, because clearly the intention was not to have any observers here in Trinidad. While Dr. Rowley despicably and, of course, undermining our democracy and, of course, telling all kinds of untruth. In other words, his mendaciousness and his prevarications have no limit, because in 2015, just before that elections, he, of course, not only went to the parliament and disclosed total and utter fabrication, lies on a so-called email thread that came out ultimately to be called Emailgate. Total lies, as, of course, Gary Griffith formally, of course, ratified as Commissioner of Police. And then, without any kind of remorse, he then tried, of course, again to hoodwink us and to fool us and telling us that it was inconclusive. Of course, the issue, let me take this one. Present the night, I'll have to decline this one. I'm all right, working hard as usual. And I just got up and I had to, of course, come straight to the program.
Trying to get you on your numbers and them are not getting through. Report here.
All right. Yes, I know. All right, my friend.
All right.
Yeah, but we have to work. Well, tell me, you get me now?
Yes. Good night to everyone on the corridor.
Yes.
This is why I was asking the question, Lennox.
Yes.
Why there was in so much a hurry to fix that pipeline if Petrotrin wasn't refined in oil? I don't know if you see, there is a post on WhatsApp where there was transporting oil between Venezuela and Trinidad.
No, I haven't seen it, but I will look for it now that you have, or if you can forward it to me to save me time, I will certainly appreciate that.
I would try and look back for that.
Okay.
And this is why I would tell you to try and see if you're going to talk to around. You know, they were going good with the investigation, but it's the technical points they didn't looking at.
Okay.
Because, you know, something had to go wrong. And what the next thing I wanted to know, if that pipeline was lying on the bed of the sea, or if it was buried under the bed, because plenty of those lines that are just rested on the bed of the sea and anchored to it big concrete blocks and whatever.
I see.
And, you know, and I don't know, nobody really had take it up on their own to fight 100% for these divers. And I will tell you something, I just always say, watch out about this. Just keep all your eyes on these union people. After the matter, well, I have to say, come to a close, they riding the backs of the family. While the matter was going on, you didn't hear none of them.
That's right. That's
None
right.
of them. You understand? But they're just trying to make the family feel they care about them. But no, they didn't care about them. Because what they're trying to do now, while the matter was going on, they sort of have big protests in front of the court and them. And this Chinese man who say that he was looking for a pump to pump out the line 3 o'clock in the morning so that the pump could reach on site for 7 o'clock. So if the people was alive in the pump in the line 3 o'clock in the morning, by 7 o'clock they're sure they would have dead. Right? And I always say they kill those people. They kill them. And apparently what had happened, it had other diving company, but they couldn't beat this one. So they had was a setup. This is my saying, this is nobody. I take it responsible for this.
Okay.
They have to set up something to make this company look bad. And if you know the construction industry, when you have a mishap as a contractor with that kind of
outcome. You write you off. Yeah, I can't get work again anyway. Yeah.
So you could no condition you could get back a job in there.
Yeah.
So I don't know if them fellas have friends that wanting to get in and there's the pipe to repair the line. And if this man didn't know that he have to get the line pumped out to send people to rescue them, why they didn't pump out the line in the first place and send him and them to work?
Yeah.
You know? And I don't want to take too much time, but they have plenty more things to talk about that they didn't do. So, you know, I don't know what to say. I would check back and see if I get the post on WhatsApp and on Facebook and send it to this same number.
All right, will do.
So you take care.
Yes, thank you very much, of course, for your contribution. Thank you very much. Of course, what I take from it is the initial part of that conversation with respect, of course, to the pipelines in which, of course, those divers met their demise, met their death. I mean, the question has to be asked, why it is that they're cleaning a pipeline that is responsible for crude oil? Paria does not, of course, import crude oil. They import, of course, the consequence, the refined product, refined crude oil, that is to say, a gas of a various nature, because of the closure of the Petroleum oil refinery. Why? So there's a nexus. We have seen, of course, a picture emerging of a sinister and evil, wicked and diabolical, and of course, we have to say that the Lord moves in mysterious ways, his wonders to perform. We would not have known that would have occurred, or that was occurring, save for what I consider to be divine intervention, but divine intervention with a cost, a debilitating cost to the people of Tobago in the first instance, and Trinidad and Tobago in general. It is clear when he came up that he, as opposition leader, went into the owners of sandals, when he realized that he had no authority so to do, and the reinforcement that he was greedy, he was, of course, his avarice couldn't be contained for power, to be prime minister, to be where he is. and to make it and convert the office of Prime Minister and the cabinet to a mafia syndicate. He then, of course, reneged and developed a new story that he just casually met them. But all the time he was saying, when, of course, it appeared that the Sandal project would have come to fruition, he was saying that he, using first person, I. That is what Rowley was saying. But when it turned to a pillar of salt, when it turned to nothingness, when it turned, of course, to an exercise in futility, he then, of course, denied. Was it Peter who denied Christ 3 times? Or after the cock crowed 3 times? Well, that is Rowley. And he does that to his own self, himself. And don't tell me I don't understand what I'm talking about, because that has been a pattern. We saw him do the same thing, the same kind of convoluted dance, verbal dance, with the matter relating, of course, to the shortlist that was supposed to be forwarded to the Parliament through or after the consideration of the Police Service Commission, headed by Bliss and C. Prasad. And Rowley went there and he gave us a sort of roundabout talk about he have a right to be talking to the president then, without telling us directly that it was him. Only when Kamala Prasad Bisesa and they were successful, just as how they were successful with the Privy Council to, of course, make certain that we have local government election called before this year. But Rowley went to the Parliament with his slim majority and postponed the local government elections. And the same scenario. It's only when, of course, he was confronted attempt at impeaching a sitting president in this country, a ceremonial president, a president without executive powers, but merely ceremonial and have certain, of course, responsibility according to the Constitution, was inevitable and was looming. He then confessed. That man is simply evil. We will treat with it. We will work with what we have. Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor. Welcome to the corridor.
A pleasant good night to you, Lena, and everybody on the chat. Then, are you hearing me loud and clear?
Loud and clear, loud and clear, loud and clear. Loud and clear.
Right. And according to Strongland, that story missing a lot of players. That story, as the days go by, is like a snowball. It reminds me very much of the Delphi Rodriguez story. They didn't know, he didn't know. They were here on to visit COVID patients. A lot of stories. And now we are hearing even more with this oil spill. They hear the president of Guyana said they never know what was ever headed in their direction.
That's right.
I don't know who making up the story as they go along. Hello?
Yes, go ahead. I'm hearing you loud and clear. Go ahead. Everybody is hearing you.
Yeah. I say I don't know. Yeah, I don't know who making up the story as they go along, but they sounding very stupid, Lennox. And now we are hearing that the oil spill has Grenada. Right? Grenada? Let us hear now what is going to happen there now. Right? This is my opinion. I strongly believe Rowley and them know very well what it is went on there. He took too long, but they're not studying the length of time Rowley take. Rowley, who Prime Minister, take to go there, but it's saying, what if the US still arrest? What can you do? You see, they always try to take shame from Rowley's face and give it to Kamala's own. And to raise the issue, Lennox concerns that was another story that we heard so many versions of. That at one point that coming out, let us get they go to cut their lives, and let us see. If you let us see. Of silver. Let us see they're not going to bring it. But you know what is amazing, Lennox?
Go ahead.
Now, I am not against carnival. I am not against anybody enjoying themselves or whatever. But come out for the carnival. Can't come to the things that are going on in this country. Yeah?
Yes.
Let's see now what's going to take place. Groceries going up again. Everything going up again. And they're not saying a word. Because the is important. As I say, I'm not taking that away from them. They like that. That is their business. But good God. Will they come out for something, man? Stand up for something. This government is doing too much and getting away with it. How long are we going to take this? But Long's rope has an end. Lennox, thanks a lot for listening to my comments. Take care and have a good night.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And I want callers, listeners, patriots, the diaspora. I want to direct your mind in a particular, narrow, but relevant to the multiple issues that are bordering on criminal behavior that this government under Rowley over the last 9 years. Let us look at it carefully, and I want you to search your conscience, ideate, assess and assimilate, rationalize, and do you. Yes.
It's a brotherhood around the world. But when you break rank, we kill you politically. It's the code of the code connotation. Mr. Lennox, it's a brotherhood around the world. You have a blessed one.
Yes, my friend. Exactly where I'm going. Exactly where I'm going, my friend. And you have analyzed it well. But there is a need for further, what I consider to be analysis, deduction, and generate the irrefutable evidence. Make Rowley and they culpable. Because you see, he will come back tomorrow and pretend that everything is honky-dory and he did nothing. Whilst all the evidence is pointing. And it's only the sycophants and those who, of course, are prepared to undermine and to betray and to subvert and to, of course, compromise their integrity for 30 pieces of silver are talking about either a salary or some opportunity with our money that Rowley and they are prepared, of course, to expend in order where they are in their illegal conduct, multiple, multifaceted, and dangerous to Trinidad and Tobago. We need to examine. I want you to understand, and I'm going to give I'm going to give you, of course, a terminology. But let's go to the lines. Let's go to the lines. Don't see it as interruption. See it as you making your contribution. And I will accept and stop talking once, of course, someone is on the line. A pleasant good night. Welcome. A pleasant good night. Welcome.
Good night, Onyx. Can you hear me?
Yes, but come a little closer to the phone.
Yeah, good night, Lennox.
Yes, and
I don't
speak
know
a
if you
little
can hear
louder.
me.
We
Good
want to
night,
hear
Lennox.
every single
Yeah, I said good night.
syllable pronounced. Go ahead.
Well, I don't know if you will hear every single word because the connection real bad out here.
Well, we are
You know,
hearing
and
you
I think
fine, so go ahead.
it's very choppy.
All right.
But can you hear me clear?
Very, very clearly. You speak
All
on.
right then.
Speak,
Well,
man.
I'm gonna
Speak.
make this comment. I was listening to Mr. Jagdu from Guyana speak.
Yes.
I said, you know, it's ridiculous. He said that why should Guyana be liable an oil rig or cargo that comes in and takes oil and then goes into the ocean and makes a spill or an accident? That's not Guyana's fault. He said we are a free market economy. And he said that we will sell and ship to anybody who comes to Guyana and buys the oil. Now, that got me thinking, you know. And I said, for him to make a comment like that, that means that when ships come into your port now, all these cargo containers, are you going to have standards to ensure that those containers don't collapse in the middle of the Caribbean Ocean and destroy marine life? We are worried about climate change. And we have this recklessness in Trinidad right now where we don't have standards. We've had oil leaks all over this island. Even recently with one of those pipelines in a village. And I think it was Heritage, eh? And
Yes, Heritage.
people were living and smelling that oil, that fossil fuel, that hydrocarbon that the Prime Minister speaks about. See, when you're dealing with these oil companies and you don't have standards locally, those oil companies don't care because they are billionaires. They are going to drill, get that oil and send it to America. They're going to create and invent, and they're going to make money. And wars, and we are still going to be writing on carbon paper. You see, the Prime Minister is not evil. The Prime Minister is reckless with our rights and our ability to move up. And these oil companies own oil rigs all over the world. And you look at the countries that they deal with, Africa, Congo, Niger, Gabon. You name these countries that they deal with, and look where these oil companies come from. Europe, UK, EU. You know, and I say to myself, we are in the Caribbean, living next to Guyana, which is now going to be the next Dubai. Are we going to be like Dubai? Are we going to have such oppression of human rights? And it's okay to have no standards? Because I tell you something, ships coming into Guyana, they better have standards, because I tell you something, if still, and it's going to happen with all that pipeline, they're drilling and building on the pipeline, and you don't have satellites to manage all that nonsense, you will see oil spill and sabotage. Nord Stream, that pipeline from Ukraine, that was sabotage, you know, Russia.
Yes.
That's how. And
Yeah.
so, you know, we have to pay attention. That's my comment. That's my comment, because the Prime Minister obviously doesn't give a crap, and it shows. He was just saying, "Oh, we're going to dance for Carnival," or we ignore that ship and let me dance for Carnival. That was it. All right, thanks, Lennox.
Yes, indeed. Serious matters and serious comments from serious, very serious presenters and concerned citizens. But it was making the point to direct your minds and to take on board not the notion, not the assertion, but the palpable and tactile common sense reasoning that this government is a mafia syndicate, a mafia organization with all its complexities. Mafia. We'll go to the lines as soon as it comes up. Let's go to the line. A mafia syndicate with all its complexities. That is where we should be going, and as far as I'm concerned, and I'm inviting you to think along those lines. But let's go straight to the line one time. President, good night, welcome. President, good night, welcome.
A pleasant good night, Mayor.
President, good night to you as well, my friend.
Now, here what's going on. When we talk about the guys that died in the pipeline,
Yes.
you get a permit to work. Permit to work, whatever repairs, whatever do and do. We do not do repairs inside a pipeline, under the water. We do repairs outside of the pipeline. This thing has been outlawed for the longest while. And Trinidad is the only island, I can't even say a country. Trinidad and Tobago has been out. Trinidad has been outlawed because Rowley has been doing a lot of bullshit because he doesn't know what is going on. Now these 4 guys that work in the pipeline and died, right?
Yes.
I work with them already because I had 2 brothers, one on the east side and one on the west side, right? Now we have happening. There is a gentleman called Vishnu Raghunanan. This
Yes.
is one of the fellas that's supposed to have on that board. But because he was an Indian, they did not take him because this is one of the knowledgeable fellas that know about what the C word is about. Well, they killed 4 men. It still hurted my heart to do that. I was working with these guys and them. And they will, Butcher, I'm to tell you, if I go see them, you're sure about one thing. You're going to get some hard lash in the backside. Right? But Mr. Vishnu Raghunanan bring out the chart and show you. Right? But these are the fellas that won there because they know how. Right? So, my brother, Rowley and all should be locked up in flipping jail to he and Short Young. I ain't free to call no name. Good night, my brother.
Yes, indeed, my friend. And you have expressed the sentiments of the majority of conscientious Trinbagonians who would have had
I have worked in Petro for almost 40 years with conductor workers, and we know the whole refinery. Rowley and them know nothing about the refinery.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much for your contribution. You have expressed, of course, as I was saying, the sentiments of the majority of Trinbagonians who would have had the misfortune, the egregious as well as the painful and emotional and traumatizing experience to listen to the testimonials or the testimonies of the witnesses in that recently concluded and the tragic and the most devastating and emotionally taxing industrial, if you want to call it. And as the commissioner would have said, you can't say accident. He said it was no act of God, and it was no accident. That's a powerful and solid statement. And yet still beyond their terms of reference. And at the ending or the terminus of the exercise by the presentation of a report, the chief or the head of the Commission of Inquiry begged for compensation for the bereaved family who themselves are impecunious. They don't have money. They are poor. They are in abject need. They have been devastated. Their breadwinners was suddenly taken away from them by the ineptitude of a very significant state enterprise called Paria in this case. No amount of money could compensate because you can't bring back life. No, man. But what is important is that consideration and sympathy, if not empathy, which Rowley and they have demonstrated none of them. Let's go straight to the line. Let me see. Caller, call back and be a little patient. Be a little patient. We have a delay so that you'll find me appear to be tardy. No, I am waiting for the system to show up that particular call before I can of course engage. So let's go again. Yes, indeed. All right, let's go. All right, let's go now. Yes. Yes, a pleasant good night. Welcome. Pleasant good night. Welcome. Well, of course, as could be in the circumstance. As could be in the circumstance. Go ahead, make your contribution. Yes.
This whole this entire fiasco with this mystery boat boy, that come like some kind of thing out of a movie, you know.
Yes.
Nobody knows where that boat come from. Nobody knows where it went. Nobody knows where it's going to. There's a whole mystery here, boy. It's only in Trinidad there's a mystery like that, you know, Lennox. But I believe this government has something to do with that.
Of
Somebody
course,
there
no
doing
doubt.
bunkering.
Yeah,
You
no doubt.
understand?
Yeah, no doubt.
And they're collecting something on the side. They're
That is
collecting
why they
something
didn't
on the
want
side.
any
That is
Coast
why you
Guard
see the
boats.
government ain't saying nothing.
They didn't want to be
Right?
scrutinized by the Coast Guard, so they deliberately kept those Damien vessels under wraps at Subel's Bay. But go ahead, my friend.
Well, you see, instead of like that, Lennox, head would be rolling all now, you know. That is a major disaster, you know. There's 144 kilometers of oil still there, you know.
Yes.
All on to Grenada and all the other countries. So I don't know how they're going to clean up all of that. I will cost hundreds of millions of dollars they're going to get rid of it. You see, this government, they're responsible for a set of shenanigans in this country going on. And that is why you see all of these things happening now. It's falling back in their place. I hear told that Dr. Rowley gone on holiday. Are you sure?
A what? Yes, gone on holiday, yes.
That?
Yes, he went on holidays. I wonder if it is...
So wait now.
If it was insisted upon by the Americans.
You see, that is how a leader lead Lennox. Your country in a crisis. You wouldn't stay back and correct the entire scenario going on. You jump on a plane and go on to relax. So think about who travel people in Tobago going on. You have it under control? Eh? But you see them two squatters in Tobago, Champagne the next one, they're gonna kick them out, you know. They wanna kick them out clean. Them is nobody from Tobago at all. They're quiet. Right. They ain't saying nothing. They didn't really we say immediately people in Tobago, there's two squatters. I get rid of them too, man. The whole IPNM. You know what I call them now? The People's Bunkering Movement. Because they're bunkering oil and gas. Well, I don't know who. Somebody making a set of change here in Lennox. And they damn well know who it is. Somebody, the Prime Minister was on record saying he had to get the rich richer. Everybody see them diverse, somebody can get sense. They're rich, so he don't cater for that. There's only rich people he catering for. So they can suffer, right? But I tell you, karma following in this country. Since he made that ridiculous response in Parliament, look what happened. They lost the deal with the dragon gas, and now this big oil spill. More to come in Lennox, more to come. Let you continue. I tell you, the prayers and the tears of these people's family ain't falling in vain. That's all we had to pay for it. I tell you so. So say so done. Look out for more. Look at Lennox. I will be surprised if the United States get involved in this thing and we culpable for some kind of breach in the maritime law there with regards to dealing with Venezuela and all this other thing. Look out for that. It's coming. Have a good day.
Yes, and I would want to just add that Dr. Rowley's his suspicious demeanor and his utterances demonstrates that there is more in the mortar than the pestle. It's because he tried to tell us that the boat came with this, of course, body, and that something like that happened already. So lightning could strike twice on small little Tobago as far as geography is concerned. But let's go to the lines. Professor, good night. Welcome. Hey. Well, of course, as could be in the circumstance, I'm angry. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
She ain't showing no sort of remorse or no regret that she has to do something like that.
Yes.
Even hatred malevolence, she will be so sorry we have to do this and so on. It's a one bullshit more than the luck. And she got deal with the parents after. And the luck, I called on the opposition to stop that one for putting them girls and especially in the program, And she said, you fight them.
Yes.
If the opposition don't want to do it, you put that one in the court. You can't put your hand that. You think you could do by put your hand that to anybody? Can't do that, dog. She played the pool. And that who is she? She thinks
Yes, yes, I hear you, yes. I could well imagine. As it has happened before.
yes. And the next thing I want to tell you, that idiot, Rohan Silanan, you see what happened to me, go there? You saw that man destroy Mandela Beach Boys, That Mandela Beach was one of the most beautiful coastlines in the world, And that idiot destroyed it. Because he don't know nothing. And they wanted an excuse. Choose Ramachan to get that thing so good. And I look what that man do. I look how this man has this whole country, all the roads, and he don't care about damn about it. What did people do about that? Anyhow, I'm going for now.
All right, okay then. All right. Yes, indeed, of course. We have several persons that are call at the same time. I wanted to. Let me take this by this phone. Let me make this phone here. Let me take it up on this phone instead. Professor, good night. We're trying to be multitasking here, so we have two phones at the same time. We have one on the system itself. Wherever it comes from, your contribution is valuable. Professor, good night. Professor, good night, caller. Yes. Talk a little louder.
Anyhow, good show, but I'm getting a lot of buffering.
Oh, all right.
I said I'm getting a lot of buffering, Lennox.
Buffering, yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm feeling good here. I'm seeing good here.
You're strong. You're strong.
Yeah. Thank you very much. All right, we'll see how we can deal with that as we move forward. Well, you may have to you.
Good, Lennox.
Okay, yes. some people wait for the show and then they look at it afterwards, and it is usually, of course, devoid interruptions that come from time to time. But I think it's important, of course, for us to put things in perspective. As I said, that I would like you to focus on the fact that Rowley has constructed, he has choreographed a criminal enterprise of a mafia nature with all of its complications and sophistications, as well as engaging in what could be considered to be extremely high profile enterprises of a criminal nature, bunkering and utilizing the state resources and the parliament to, of course, pursue their nefarious and criminal conduct. And because there may not be, as yet, legal mechanisms to capture by, of course, engaging in illegal, of course, technicalities. It was Rowley who said, doing wrong, blatantly infringing moral and ethical codes. You know what that man said with respect, of course, to recusals? He said that what is required is that people must just walk out of the room while the other members of the cabinet deliberate on a matter that obviously our common sense will tell us those matters were not and could not have been brought to the cabinet for the first time and all cabinet members are seeing it. They tell you that the week before, cabinet members would have been, of course, abreast by the information that would have been given to them as to what the agenda is at the next cabinet meeting. It means that they would have had time not only to assimilate, not only to analyze, not only, of course, to take a position ultimately, but they would have had, if it is cabinet members involved, they would have had an opportunity, of course, to call, to converse, to dialogue, to, of course, generate an explanation. Rowley is attempting to tell us that when, of course, a cabinet is considering, let's say, Short Young's brother, Merchant Bank, and a contract, or Al-Rari's multiple family accommodations for government offices, whether it be number 1 Alexandra or number 3 Alexandra, or the facility in Barataria, the building in Barataria, Aikwa, that of course hosts or houses the property tax personnel and the system to be unfolded and executed in the public. Rowley is attempting to tell us that there is nothing wrong because the law did not say so. There's nothing wrong in when cabinet is considering a matter that is of a concern to a particular member of the cabinet, the government, a minister, and the prime minister as well. That all they have to do is to walk out the room and let the rest of them consider it. And he's comfortable with that. And what he clearly has left it up to is the electorate to say that we do not accept, and he believes he can escape blue lights and silver bracelet with that kind of conduct. I say that that is misbehavior in public office. That is abuse of office. and must be, of course, ventilated in the courts of this land. Criminal conduct once is already too much, twice, but one member of the cabinet 500 times recusing themselves for what clearly a conflict of interest matters, and therefore corruption. Yes, indeed. This man is sick to the core and wicked to the belly, to the solar plexus. Yes. So I want you, of course, to contemplate, to ideate, to mull on the gravity and the extent and the monolithic execution of a criminal enterprise that Rowley has put together, having regard to, of course, this recent oil spill. And we weren't supposed to know. Having regard, of course, to Sandals and the failure. And we were supposed to know that no man's land was supposed to be, of course, part of the deal, and how much money Trinidad and Tobago was supposed to put out because they really had a contract to service, a service contract, and not the ownership of the assets. And Rowley and they would have gone away, achieving their narrow and, of course, irrational political agenda, saying that they have accomplished something. Well, it turned to naught because it was the Minister of Finance, the acting Prime Minister now when Rowley is out of the country, that told us that Sanders was supposed to bring 500 million a year annually. Now they are silent. It's just as how they have come together in this conspirators criminal way to close down Petrotrin, to save Rowley. You don't expect that Rowley will pretend to be ignorant to that oil spill, knowing full well that he went to Tobago 5 days later, well briefed, so that he could try to deflect. And suddenly, the Damien vessels have been, of course, allocated a substantial of money, a sum of money for repairs. He ain't fooling anybody. He engages in these very complex, far-reaching, and you would not believe that one man is so dangerous. Rowley and his government is the greatest threat to Trinidad and Tobago across the board, economically, socially, politically, governance-wise. And clearly, as far as the breaches of the criminal code is concerned, they act and conduct their business as a mafia syndicate. But the big difference here is that they control the government. People, we are in serious problems. It cannot and must not be allowed. That rapscallion, that rapist, that pedophile, that iniquitous speck of protoplasm that ought to be stillbirth. Where this beast came from, I don't know. But it cannot be the typical DNA of a Trinbagonian. It has to be an evil, macabre, wicked, dangerous, diabolical, Luciferian, and of course, a total barbarian of a Neanderthal nature. You want to say a barbarian of a Neanderthal nature, a total caveman, because that is what he has demonstrated, and that is what we have seen, and that heartlessness and brutality, and of course, a total and absolute stone-heartedness and rock-headedness must not be countenanced in Trinidad and Tobago, and Rowley must face the blue lights and silver bracelet ultimately. Must. This is no ordinary fella. Our perseverance and our insistence must be one that ultimately results in a prison term for Rowley as a serial and recidivist sociopath that got some education and used the education to be where he is. Having, of course, hoodwink and deceive even Patrick Manning for the position that he now has and the entire PNM edifice. And therefore it itself must be relegated to the dustbin of political history as an institution, irregardless of its longevity. But because it has conjured up and has deposited that specter of evil on the people, for that alone, the PNM must be banned from any electoral activities in Trinidad and Tobago. That is how I see it. And I trust that you see it the same way. If not, or you want to add, certainly call me on the ground report tomorrow. Call me now. Or you wait until, of course, Saturday night when I will be, of course, back with you. We have a duty and responsibility to resist. We have a duty and responsibility to identify. And we have a duty and responsibility as human beings to say enough is enough. And we have a sense of responsibility to know that we as human beings, flesh and blood, and while we have a soul, it only, of course, has significance after we die. And I say so because there are children to follow suit. There are children to be brought up in Trinidad and Tobago. Other generations will not forgive us if we allow the PNM to remain unscathed as they hope to. Look at the damage that has been done across the board, physical, psychological, economic, educationally, agriculturally, social development, national security, the office of the Attorney General, the office of Prime Minister, the Ministry, of course, of Culture, the Ministry, and so many other nuances by way of state enterprises that are dysfunctional and malfunctioning. And Rowley, in that chaotic environment, he feels comfortable as he's able, of course, to use semantics, obfuscation, deflection, and specious arguments and sophistry in order, of course, to stay where he is. And because he knows that there is a legal, ultimate, a legal parameter called 5 years, he can stay there and hope that he can empty the and to get back there so that he could, in the next 5 years, do us the evil, mismanagement, poor governance, vindictiveness, maligning, and totally incompetent. A charlatan of extraordinary degree. But people, let us, of course, consummate that in song. I think we should do that. Put everything in song. Yes, indeed.
much of one thing, good for nothing. Too much of, I don't know why my black people cannot see. No party never care about we. Every election we so devoted. How we love up the PNM. As soon as election come and go, is only problem after problem. How could we cope? Man lost their work, I see no solution. Every time PNM come in power, it takes a toll on black man. I don't want to sound like a racist, but this is what I can see. They just take care of the race, cause they damn well know they have we. I want to ring my bell, wake up Eric Willie. Tell him the party found him, PNM needed immediate attention. Ring my bell, wake up Mother Cornhawk. Tell she to cast a spell on we party, cause it's not what it used to be. I ring my bell, ring my bell. I ring my bell down there. I ring my bell, ring my bell. I ring my bell down there. This thing is becoming out of hand. It's time this damn nonsense stop. If you don't sing a PNM song, from Skinner Park you'll be dropped. Calypsonian could have sing what they want. We were the spokesman for the people. Eric Duffy, Chambers Duncy, when Kamala drunk how she liked to pee. Calypsonian know that's no way to go. Too much happening in we country. All this killing spree, young woman bodies, but only about PNM you could sing. All them songs playing on the radio, all you singing we Kamala do. But when PNM do a wrong thing, I hear in a word from you. I want to ring me bell, wake up Mother Castle. Every Monday she preach on WAC radio, and is the biggest critic of Calypso. Ring me bell for Patsy and Joan. I want them two cultural lovers to know, not only PNM song is Calypso. I ring my bell, ring my bell. I ring my bell down there. I ring my bell, ring my bell. I ring my bell down there. Crime will never stop in this country once black people belly empty. How could a man work in CPEP, maintain his whole family? All you say the past regime was so bad, so much wrong thing they done to we. Now that PNM take over, white poor people going hungry. When PNM win, all African grin. Now we get back we country. All they doing is complaining and ain't doing nothing for we. The mess already made, don't sit in the shade and ponder on we problem. Get off your ass and do it fast and find a way to solve them. I want to ring my bell, wake up Randolph Burrows. Tell him among all past police commissioners, up to now is he I prefer. Ring my bell, wake up the Lord Bryna. Tell him the state of Calypso today is a good thing he passed away.
What is democracy? What is human rights?
Yes, indeed, people. That is the state of affairs today. We must not be complacent nor throw a blind eye. Otherwise, we will be guilty of irresponsibility. That we have been negligent. We have been, of course, derelict in our responsibility as adults and the persons who can, of course, vote and make a difference and tell Dr. Rowley and they to get the ass out of government and do so quickly because they are trying, of course, to send Trinidad and Tobago to hell in a gasoline-soaked paper bag, or should I say, plenty cockroach bags. Yes, indeed. Let's go straight, of course, to the line. Let's go straight to the lines. Yes, indeed. Pleasant good night. Welcome. Pleasant good night. Welcome.
Yes, Mr. Lennox. Good night.
Good night to you.
Yes, yeah. You're aware? Are you aware that Venezuela have given the United Nations 3 days to move out of Venezuela? The office there?
Repeat that again. Repeat.
Are you aware that the United Nations have been given United Nations in Venezuela have been given 3 days to move out of Venezuela?
No, I am not aware. I'm not aware.
Yeah, are you aware?
But I am not
Yeah,
surprised. I must
it's
say.
on the online Guardian today.
Okay, but I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. I'm not
Yeah,
aware.
the online Guardian today, they have an article.
Okay.
Right, yeah, so they have been given 3 days to move out of Venezuela because what the government is saying, the authorities, the UN is helping out the opposition in Venezuela.
Well, that's it. But there goes the dragon gas.
Right, that's
Deal.
just inform you.
Yes, thank you very much. There goes the dragon gas deal for sure.
So
Yeah.
3 days to move out.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's it. Rowley,
All
Rowley,
right, good.
hang on.
Okay, all right.
Hang on to that dribble. And now its elasticity has become so attenuated, so emaciated that once again, another pillar of salt scenario. I'm going to check it out, but I have no reason to doubt because I'm not surprised having regard to the conduct of this man called Maduro. But we have a duty as well.
Your vote will decide what you want to be. Your vote can foretell our country's fate. Move and use it well before it's too late. If it is that who you're voting, fail beyond a doubt. When you're voting, vote them out. Vote them out. If it is they prove it to be only full amount, voting, vote them out. Vote them out. If it is the time is now that change should come about, just as how you vote them in, vote them out. If they don't see, vote them out. Stain your finger and vote them out. Show them no mercy, vote them out. Vote them out with total scorn and utter disdain. Let's put our country together again.
Yes, indeed.
Put them out of power, dominate their reign. Let's put our country together again. If for 30 years you voting them in, and there's only tears as soon as they win, they give you big words and enslave your souls, promising you roads and giving potholes. If they are the reason why the economy goes sprout, when you're voting, vote them out. Vote them out. If it is the passing laws that them alone can flout, when you're voting, vote them out. Vote them out.
Yes, indeed. That is what you do. That is what any sensible population will do. And we have a duty and responsibility to get rid of them. The time will come, here no Maduro, he will love to emulate, to duplicate, to be, of course, a replica of Maduro, having regard to his silence on the evil that Maduro has been doing to his people. But at the same time, playing a brinksmanship game, trying to mama guide the Americans, and of course, we in Trinidad. Somehow he subscribed to democratic principles. but only, of course, rooting by his conduct and gravitating to evil and wickedness. But people, of course, we just have about 8 more minutes before, of course, we come to the close. But, of course, we're going to take your calls as usual. Going to take your calls. Yes, indeed. President, good night. Welcome.
Pleasant night, Mr. Lennox.
Good night to you.
We now see where the Richard Mill watch come from. And this thing they call Balize House, we now see where the finance coming from.
That's right.
We now see where everything coming from. Everything coming out in the open. Richard Mill watch 250,000 US.
Yes.
And Balize House, how let's call it, the Manchester or something like that. We seeing and we paying attention.
Yes.
We on to them.
Yes, man. Yes, fullness of time. The Lord moves in mysterious ways. Evil could never prevail over good. Evil could never. It may last some time, so much time that some find that it is too long. But we have to look at Mussolini and people like Hitler and Mugabe and others, and including, of course, Maduro. Maduro time will come to an end, including Putin, for the evil that he is perpetrating in that part of what I consider to be Europe, Asia, because, of course, it's the only country that struggles between 2 continents. I'm talking about Russia, Asia, and Europe. But that being as it may, we await the only thing for us not to see, to witness the transformation, because we did see the fall of the Berlin Wall. We did see the fragmentation or the mashing up of the Soviet Union. But of course, Putin has some nostalgic ambition that will never work, cannot work. So long as good is the place to be, and good represents not just overwhelming power, not just the right thing to do, and not just the salubrious responsibility, but the tenaciousness of the population wherever to eliminate evil is more powerful and overwhelming than the few like Rowley and his cabinet and his kitchen cabinet. Yes, indeed. Much more powerful. Every time they try something, it does not work, cannot work. And they try it, of course, for permanency and for their own aggrandizement, greed, and, of course, evil. But I promise you, of course, during the course of the Carnival, to, of course, highlight some of the major developments in terms of the winners of Carnival. For the few minutes that we have, I think we better focus there, because that is our culture, whether Rowley and them, they're not there, whether they performed or ill-performed. The fact is that our population will continue, of course, to break the ice, so to speak, of the previous year or the current year, depending on your perspective. And, of course, always in recognition that we as a people are docile, caring, and we have a carnival mentality. Let's not waste time. But what we cannot comprehend and understand is how such an evil man, grown up in such an environment, could be so despotic, despicable, ruthless, brutal, inhumane, and dangerous. Let's look at some of it. So, of course, during the course of the Carnival season, we would have had, of course, a number of things happening. The steel band, of course, Renegades, congratulations to Renegades and All Stars. And of course, that is a part of what transpired in Skinner's Park, in San Fernando, in that competition, band leader, male and female. And then, of course, we have, of course, yes, we continue to do so. I'll have it a little more static so that you will have an appreciation as to what transpired. This is just a speedy view as to what transpired. That's, of course, in San Fernando. But I'll be a little more detailed on the next occasion. That's, of course, All Stars there. And you saw Amoco. Yes, Amoco Renegades at this time. Yes. Yes, indeed. And, of course, Marshall Montano taking the Calypso Crown, which has caused his scintillating performance. And then, of course, the road march by, of course, the winner, DNA. And then, of course, you had the king of the bands and the queen of the bands. The queen there on stage having won. So all of that will be, of course, you must put in, of course, an ugly face. Because, of course, with that face that Heinz have there, he always plays bite with an alligator and always win. I don't know how he manages it. But of course, and when he has to say Stoops, as he usually do, when he has to say Stoops, because of his dismissive nature and his haughty, and of course, a self-aggrandizement disposition, when he has to say Stoops with that mouth, he says Stoops. He says Stoops. Having, of course, won his prize playing bite with an alligator. Yes, indeed. So those are some of the highlights. I will, of course, as I said, on Saturday, put it in a package that you will greatly appreciate. But I thought I must live up to what I commit myself to, and I did that. That is why, one of the reasons why I was tardy this tonight, because I was putting this together, but I couldn't put in all the animations that I would have liked. So now that I have more time, Saturday, you'll get all the animations and the spectacular performances that took place Carnival 2024. But of course, knowing full well that 2025 is of course election, and 2024 must be a long hot 12 months for, of course, for this government. Yes, indeed. So I thought it was important, of course, for you to at least have an appreciation of that, and to want the amount of choppings and the deaths that have occurred. The face itself tells you the agony and the pain. Not what I consider to be a congenial sight, but it exists, and we have to deal with it. Huge incompetence, impotence, and of course, Ulla Christopher at the side, because it is about dominance, and they wanted a commissioner of police that they could dominate. And boy, has she turned out to be one that is subservient, and of course, grovels. Where is the investigations with respect to fake oil and Rowley's involvement? Where is the investigation with respect to the intervention by Rowley on the list of the Police Service Commission? Where is the intervention with respect to sandals? Where is the investigation with respect, of course, to the fake oil? Where is the investigation with respect, of course, to the Hi, I am on air. You want to make an intervention? You want to make a contribution?
Yes, I want to make a
Yes, go ahead. Sorry about that. You are on my phone, so to speak. Go ahead.
Okay, but I'm talking about, I want to ask you something, Lennox.
Go ahead.
What about EV drilling now?
AV drilling is a matter that we have no information of, except that former Commissioner of Police, Gary Griffith, said it was a front burner issue and they were waiting for experts to measure the tanks to see whether or not it had nothing to do with the arbitration.
Lennox, I draw this to your attention. That spreading of that oil, I'll leave it there for now. That's spreading of business.
That what? Repeat that, the mayor. I didn't hear it well.
I'm just trying to talk about this spilling of that thing in Tobago now.
Oh, I see. You want to make an excess connection. Right.
Leave it to you, Lennox. You should know where I'm coming.
Yeah. Okay, then. Thanks.
So much.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
People, you understand?
Yes, indeed. All kinds of, and the government exposes itself to that, and they see it as par for the course. Chaos, they rule chaos and create emergencies, artificial, and when it is natural, even better, like in the case of COVID, and of course, those floods at Greenvale. Yes. And now this disaster, trying, of course, to suggest that somehow the treasury will be unlimited, it will be unlocked for Tobago, as he did when, of course, he realized that there was a 6-6 scenario and wanted, of course, to gain the advantage. He went to the parliament and increased the number of seats in Tobago by 3 and almost lost everything. Dog on the bone. He got 6. They don't want to share power. He wants everything. So he goes and he says that he, as Prime Minister, have a duty to, of course, break the deadlock, and he imposed 3 additional seats. Well, while, of course, he could plan how much he wants, the Lord moves in mysterious ways, his wonders to perform, and he unplans for those who plan. And eventually, the people of Trinidad and Tobago will be saved and will get their just due, as Rowley and his entire cabinet must be brought before the criminal and civil justice system in this country, unless, of course, he's making arrangements for his exile in Venezuela, knowing full well that the Russians are there and the Iranians are there and the Cubans are there, and the likelihood that America will not, of course, engage. He will go there and, of course, thumb his fingers in Trinidadians, calling us from asunder fools, that rapscallion, murderer, thief, and, of course, a total and absolute rapist and pedophile, a predator, and a political kobo, and a political assassin, and a political devil in human form. We have come to the end, people. Of course, it's 5 minutes past. I gave you 5 minutes, but of course, I have a long day tomorrow. I don't want to go further. I have to take some sleep because this weekend will be crucial as we transfer the whole office and or the studio into, of course, the George Street facility. So I will have it tough, but I am prepared to make certain that these lives are not jeopardized as a consequence. It is too significant for too many people for me to feel that I can willy-nilly and helter-skelterly, arbitrarily pause, while, of course, you yearn. We need daily doses of reinforcement, encouragement. Yes, in order, of course, to achieve our ultimate objective, and that is to get rid of the PNM administration. Rowley and a bunch of unprecedented and unique thieves. They thieve more than anybody else.
Baby, on a doubt. When you're voting, vote them out. Vote them out. If it is they prove it to be only full amount. When you're voting, vote them out. Vote them out. If it is the time is
Don't forget, people, of course, we continue to work on the George Street facility. We need your help, volunteers, to teach your programs if you have a unique skill. Of course, we are putting together a skill bank, or we call it as employment bureau. But of course, that connotates the collection or the noting or the documenting of skills. We are going to transform. We are going to engage in sustainable development. We are going to engage in capacity building. We are going to engage in a revolution, the likes of which Trinidad and Tobago would not have known or seen, simply because we know what to do. And indeed, we must do it for the sake of the children. We must do it for the sake of our children. We must do it for the sake of succeeding this generation. Yes, indeed. We must do it because this is an opportunity for us to save our country.
In the letter of invitation posted on Sunday, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley said the invitation for written proposals to treat with crime from opposition leader Kamla Bissan-Bissessar is in keeping with their mutual desire to put the country's national interest first. The Prime Minister indicated that the government is prepared to share with the opposition its own ideas, programs and policies for inclusion in these discussions. Dr. Rowley said it is envisaged that Mrs. Bissat-Bissessar's proposal, like the government's, would include tools that are increasingly emboldened as they operate in this country. He has proposed that after receiving her proposal, they establish teams comprising 4 members each from both the government and the opposition to discuss the initiatives proposed. These teams, he said, will be guided by a crafted agenda formed from joint submissions, which Dr. Rowley anticipates they could have in hand within the coming fortnight. The opposition leader has publicly stated that she is willing to consult with the government in the interest of the population and that they made a call to discuss the issue earlier this year. The invitation for the opposition's proposal comes 1 week after President Christine Kangaloo called on both sides to collaborate across the aisle to deal with issues like crime during her address at the ceremonial opening of
we know all that is hogwash, and we urge you, of course, to look
where
at
has decency gone?
And
the man cried tears for the Asian children.
Crime meetings
he never seen something like that.
Will be held, and we will give you details
corner you
of
and
it.
ask you for the money that you couldn't have come
Have
for.
a wonderful rest of the night. God bless.
He said, I don't have to come to anybody for that, and he was true. Yeah, come to nobody for it. Down in Deca Martin asking to make him prime minister.
Talking a set of fat.
And there are people taking him seriously.
Talking a set of fat.
Serious enough to want to cast their vote for individual people. I mean, if the God is like that, you can imagine putting up people asking for your vote. You will say something like, I think that you don't go for a thing and say, okay, I'm not eating, you are eating the food. Not because you have a garage and you take some more and you bring your car for them knowing that you're clean. Asking you to be prime minister of Trinidad.
Once you are in the political arena, you are available to be questioned by every citizen of Trinidad and Tobago because you are managing their affairs. Once you are in the political arena, you are available to be questioned by every citizen of Trinidad and Tobago because you are managing their affairs.
The people of this country are quite correctly holding this government accountable to secure the country and to make you feel safe. Right now, the Ministry of National Security is the largest single allocation in the national budget. We are losing the war against the criminal element. But you hold the government accountable, and the government must be held accountable. The country is awash in blood. there isn't a news item in this country where there isn't a good chance that a major part of the news is who killed who. We take the advice from you, the people, and when you have had enough of what we have done, you know exactly what to do. You know what to do.
Once you are in the political arena, you are available to be questioned by every citizen of Trinidad and Tobago because you are managing their affairs.
People of Trinidad and Tobago, where has your decency gone?
People, of course, we have come to the end of our program tonight. Don't forget tomorrow morning the ground report, Andy, Mikey, and myself, of course, Andy Sabatal, and of course, whatever assistance you can provide to Andy, please, you could call him at the number that we would normally give on the program. And don't forget, of course, we will be seeing each other on Saturday. Yes, indeed.
There were few in her class. Faithfully she fulfilled her sailor's need. Some were overpowered by
Let's
grace.
take this one. This is
But slow. Some took bite, bulk and go. Now she looked dull. She's at a lull. She could barely sit on her hull. Captain, the ship is sinking. Captain, the seas are.
Yes, indeed. Let me get this music on because this is Dr. Khalid, and I cannot, of course, but take his call. A pleasant good night, Doctor. Pleasant good night, Doctor. Yes, yes, indeed. Thank you very much.
Good program.
Yes, indeed. Well, of course, we would see. Yeah.
What? Yes, so it's Saturday, you're moving to George Street.
Yes, Saturday. So we may be beaming from Sunday at the George Street. You never can tell.
All right.
All right. So I will keep you informed. That is what.
Understand, lady. All right.
All right.
Yeah, listening. You go ahead.
No, I was saying that that is what I wanted to inform you of.
Keep me informed.
Yes, I'll keep you informed. All right. Yes, indeed. Have a wonderful rest of the night, and we will see. Okay then.
Send
Yes.
Lady Gypsy, ring the bell for me on the WhatsApp now. If you can send it tonight.
All right. Okay. I certainly will. All right, my friend. Okay. Yes, indeed. Well, that was Dr. Yes, that was Dr. Khalid, of course, my co-host on a Sunday morning on the corridor transformation, and I couldn't, of course, even though we came to the end, I couldn't, of course, it would be what I consider to be dishonorable as well as lacking etiquette, proper etiquette, if, of course, a co-host is not given, of course, some degree of laxity, so to speak. That is to say, special attention. That being as it may, people, let's go back, of course, to the sinking ship, and, of course, which is, of course, Dr. Rowley, and thank God is not yet to the bottom, and, of course, kill him dead. He wants to, of course, deplete and send Trinidad and Tobago cap in hand to the IMF, but that and God face he will not see. Let's go back, of course, to the inevitable, the very iconic sinking ship, but of course with Rowley at the helm, not Chambers. Is Rowley now at the front, of course, PNM, but a more devious, dangerous, and wicked, and is the existential threat to Trinidad and Tobago as we speak.
The Trinidad, a luxury liner, sailing the Caribbean Sea with an old captain named Eric Williams. Oh yes, sail smooth and free. But sadly, Eric Williams passed away. The ship hit rough water that day. Someone turned the bridge over to a can of sailor ball. Captain, the ship is sinking. Captain, the seas are rough. Oh yes, we gas tank almost empty, no electricity. We oil pressure reading low. Shall we abandon ship or shall we stay on it and perish slow? We don't know, we don't know. Captain, you tell me what to do. Whoa, whoa. The Trinidad, oh, she was a beauty with wealth that few surpassed. And in her day, she sailed majestically. There were few in her class. Faithfully, she fulfilled her sailor's need. Some were overpowered by greed, and so they pilfered slow. Some took by bulk and go. Now she looked dull, she's at a lull. She could barely sit on her hull. Captain, the ship is sinking. Captain, the seas are rough, oh yes. We gas tank almost empty, no electricity. We oil pressure reading low. Shall we abandon ship or shall we stay on it and perish slow? We don't know, we don't know. Captain, you tell me what to do. Whoa, whoa. From the Trinidad, location 7 miles off the coast of Venezuela. SOS, SOS, Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. Help! The Trinidad, a luxury liner, sailing the Caribbean Sea with an old captain named Eric Williams. Oh yes, sail smooth and free. But sadly, Eric Williams passed away. The ship hit rough water that day. Someone turned the bridge over to a captain named Chambers. Me blood crawl, things start to fall. Hold me head when I sail a ball. Captain, the ship is sinking. Captain, the seas are rough, oh yes. We gas tank almost empty, no electricity. We oil pressure reading low. Shall we abandon ship or shall we stay on it and perish slow? We don't know, we don't know. Captain, you tell me what to do. Whoa, whoa. A beauty with wealth that few surpassed. And in her day, she sailed majestically. There were few in her class. Faithfully, she fulfilled her sailor's need. Some were overpowered by greed, and so they pilfered slow. Some took by bulk and go. Now she looked dull, she's at a lull. She could barely sit on her hull. Captain, the ship is sinking. Captain, the electricity, we oil pressure reading low. Shall we abandon ship, or shall we stay on it and perish slow? We don't know, we don't know. Captain, you tell me what to do. Whoa, whoa.